Hi, Kate here, and welcome to More Than Food, Building a Healthier You. Nutrition is at the centre of how we feel, and it's very much the case that what we put into our bodies is what we get out, both physically, mentally, and in terms of our general well-being. But nutrition is just one part of a big network, if you like, a big framework of things that make up health and well-being. So a quick rundown from what those other elements are, and if you find that some are trickier than others, then they might be a good place to think about making a few small changes. Movement. Movement I'm using quite loosely. It doesn't have to be in terms of formal exercise, although great, absolutely, why not? Because that makes you feel good and it's something that we enjoy as well as being fantastic for our health. But by movement, I mean being a bit more generally active. So often we have sedentary jobs, whether we're driving a lot, we're sitting a lot, and it's not good for us to be sat still for prolonged periods of time. So even if you can find space to get up from your desk every hour, take a long way around to get to the loo, park your car further away from the front door, we find so many opportunities in our days to move as little as possible. We take escalators, we take lifts. We do try and get that parking space that's as close to the shop as we can. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I know it's convenient and we're pushed for time, but we have these amazing bodies, these vehicles that will move us around, and if we're lucky enough to have that, it makes sense to use it. So building extra movement into your day could look as well like, whilst you've got the kettle on, do a few lunges in the kitchen. I'd love to see people doing that in the workplace. I think that would be a hoot. But if you're working from home, it's perhaps a little bit easier. But get moving, build it in. Get outside even better if you can, because the impact of being in the fresh air is so good for us, and to be out in nature. But I appreciate that's not always easy to do. Little bits of movement, movement snacks, you might call them, are an absolutely brilliant thing to build into your day. As well as movement, let's think about sleep, I guess the other end of that. If our sleep is off, not only do we feel terrible, but it's so hard to function. It affects our mood, our mental well-being. It affects the food choices that we make. It affects our willingness, our desire to exercise, to feel better. We just want to hunker down and do nothing at all. And getting our sleep right might be as simple as going to bed an hour earlier. It's really easy to sit up and watch that extra episode, or the extra 2 or 3, how these go on. But would that time really be better spent asleep in your bed? Could you go an hour earlier and read in bed or something like that, rather than fall asleep with the TV on? And leave your phone downstairs, leave it outside of the room. It will make a difference to your sleep quality if you're not overstimulated by these things before bedtime. Other things with your sleep routine could be getting the temperature right in your room, could be things like watching your caffeine intake. Anything kind of after about 4 o'clock. If you're looking at a 10 o'clock bedtime, that caffeine is still going to be in your system. Things also with sleep, what about the build up to it? Could you have baths, relaxing moments like that? And the things that go into it. Lavender is anecdotally super for getting to sleep. Make sure your magnesium levels are good. That helps with sleep too, and that comes back to diet. Things like dark chocolate, what a great excuse for that. So sleep as best as we can, but it is a bit counterproductive to be saying, oh, I'm so tired and I just don't sleep enough, but I spent hours last night gaming or watching stuff, and we've got to make a choice somehow, and prioritizing sleep is really important. We've also got to think about stress. Continuous chronic stress has an impact on our physical body that can last for years and years and years. And it's actually quite shocking that periods of very high prolonged stress cannot manifest itself maybe for 20 years later, but that it does damage to us on a cellular level. So it's really important that if we are constantly stressed, we take steps to manage that. And that, again, easier said than done in so many ways, particularly if it's at the workplace or it's in the family, or things that you don't have much control over. But take the bits that you can control. Get outside, prioritize your own self as much as you can, and make time for yourself for doing things that you like. And again, I know with the pressures of work and family, that sounds like wishful thinking, but if you can find a half-hour window, it comes back maybe again to switching off the telly earlier and do something lovely for yourself that's not just sort of mindless watching or scrolling or something like that. The final thing I wanted to mention about in this whole package of well-being is to do with our mental health. This is, of course, absolutely vital and so important to take care of ourselves, to recognise the things that make us happy and the things that cause us problems, to seek help and support when we need it, to make sure that all the elements of our lives support our mental health and aren't detrimental to it. And it's obviously normal for us to be on a scale through our life of moments that are easier and moments that are more difficult. But if you can make that a really key point of self-care and don't neglect that side of your well-being, then you've got a whole package in front of you there. So take all those areas together, get the best that you can out of those, and hopefully you will feel as great as you possibly can.